Support WrestleTalk!
Be kind to each other in the comments.
Who should headline WrestleMania 37 Night Uno? Should it be Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship, or Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair for the SmackDown Women's Championship? We're going to find out. At least we're going to discuss about it anyway. I am Luke Owen. I'll be your king freak for this afternoon stream, and I'm joined by Rob Zombie's newest fan, Denise Salcedo.
I am now metalhead. Wait, he would be considered metal, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Meet metalhead Denise Salcedo. Good morning, everyone. I'm now a Rob Zombie fanatic, expert, enthusiast.
Thank you all for joining us here on the magazine show of the WrestleTalk podcast. We'll get into Rob Zombie in a little bit, because that's something that you and I have been discussing online this week. But let's talk about our main topic first off here. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up, we actually had a mailbag question about this, a Patreon mailbag question from Michael Morales, who I think has also sent in a hyper chat about it as well, which is that I've seen a push for Sasha versus Bianca to main event night one of Mania, or even main event the whole thing, as fans and wrestlers think that, it's a bit of a dream match. It's something a bit fresh. Plus, you got this whole thing of it's two African-American women, which has never happened in WWE before. But it adds that, I would have agreed with that, but the build has been pretty bad with all of the Reginald stuff. So I have seen a massive push for this week, because they announced on Raw that Bobby versus Drew is going to be the main event of night one, while Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan, which we're going to get announced over the weekend, will be the main event of night two. But there was this huge swell of fan support that Sasha versus Bianca should have been one of the main events. Pretty much since Bianca won the Rumble, there were people who thought it would be one of the main events. Where do you stand on this?
Okay, so I feel like this isn't as easy as a decision, because here's the thing, and I've always been very open about this, is that I've always said that I feel that whatever the hottest feud is should really be the main event. Because speaking as a woman, I don't want things just handed to me. No, I want to earn everything. I don't want people to be like, hey, Denise is just on WrestleTalk because she's a girl. No, I want to be on here because, hey, I'm, what you would consider the best or whatever. I don't want to be on here or anywhere because of my gender. I don't like stuff like that. So here's the thing. So I thought from the very beginning, all right, when Bianca Belair won the Royal Rumble, it was crystal clear that she was going to go into this match with Sasha Banks. And I said, all right, great. Well, this needs to be the main event, just like everybody else here, because that really was the dream match that people had in mind for Bianca Belair was always Sasha Banks. Now, however, unfortunately, this storyline has been god awful. I don't necessarily think that I still want to see this match, obviously, for what it's going to be. But given how it's been built, it's kind of it hasn't gotten me that much more excited. It should have gotten me to a new level of excitement, and it didn't. And that's obviously on no fault of Sasha's or Bianca's. It really was just a story around this main event, or this possible main event matchup. So given all of that, I would say, okay, fine. Should it be the main event? If it wasn't the main event, if they didn't decide to be the main event, would I be upset? Would there be an uproar? From my part, no, because I do not think that this has been the hottest feud. Now, But here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. What's the alternative? Drew versus Bobby Lashley? Now, let me ask myself an honest question. Has that feud gotten me invested? It's probably been a better booked feud. It's been a better booked feud, period, compared to the Bianca Sasha Banks. So in that sense, yeah, that would probably be the main event. Now, is it the main event in my heart? No. So it's kind of there's two different thoughts. If it was something else that I was oh my God, no, this really needs to be the main event, I think I would be a lot more passionate about it, but I'm not. And yes, it would be an incredible thing to have Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair be the main event. But again, I stand where I said the hottest feud. And here's the thing. We still have a couple, 2-3 more weeks till Wrestle.
We've got 2 weeks left.
2 weeks till WrestleMania, man, things can change. And in 2 weeks, I could be you know what? 2 weeks, they did it. Bianca, Sasha, hottest feud of the night. Let's do it. Main event, whatever.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? Because off the Rumble, when Bianca won the Rumble, it was just like, that's the main event right there. Sasha versus Bianca, because that is Sasha Banks, who is an incredible talent, an incredible character, and Bianca Belair, who is, we've like as fans have just been like desperate for a push like behind, because she's so good and she's so talented. And it's like that on paper, it just makes the most sense. Even if you'd have given me like Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair or Bobby versus Drew, I would have gone Sasha versus Bianca. That should be the main event. That is the match that on paper I'm the most excited for. But since the Rumble, man, they have done everything possible to kill all my interest in that match, whether that is them being tag partners, going after the tag titles and losing twice, by the way, constantly pinning Sasha Banks in all of this, all of the Reginald stuff. And it's now like, we said this last week, but they have taken this feud off the boil.
And not only that, Sasha barely getting these wins over people like Nia Jax, and then Bianca Belair being squashed essentially 2 weeks in a row by Tamina. Tamina pins her in the tag team match that they have, and then the following week after that, she lays her out cold. And I'm thinking, what on earth? Like, this is definitely. And I'm not going to go on the same rant that I did on my SmackDown post show, but on my SmackDown post show, I rebooked the entire feud, and I've said this 1 million times. I'm no booking genius. I'm not Adam. I'm not a genius when it comes to booking. But here's the thing, is that it was such a simple story to tell that really any random Joe Smith or John Doe, whatever the name is, Jane Doe, could have booked this feud, all right? And so it's been very unfortunate because, again, from the start, I think my immediate tweet, knowing that when this match was officially announced, was this is going to be the money match, Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair. And obviously, athletically speaking, in-ring wise, they're still going to have a phenomenal match. So on that end, I'm thinking, well, if they were to make this the main event, at least we do know that they're going to have a really good match in-ring wise.
Yeah, and I think there is an argument to be made that it's sort of like, actually, no, I wouldn't say that there's an argument to be made that it buries the Royal Rumble gimmick of like, you win the Rumble and you get the main event slot Mania, because we've now got 2 Rumbles. Mania's not going to be over 2 nights next year. There's been multiple years where the Rumble winner has not main evented the show. There's been times where they've opened the show. So I don't think that argument really holds much water. I really wish that this feud had the same heat that it did following the Rumble. And they have just like, with too much time on their hands, it kind of like fell apart. I took this to the community poll as well on WrestleTalk's podcast channel. The vote is still up. But like I said, which would you prefer, Bobby versus Drew or Sasha versus Bianca? Which should headline? 75% have gone for Bobby versus Drew. Like for me, that's like an overwhelming like majority have gone for Bobby Drew.
I thought you were going to say Bianca Sasha. I'm actually really surprised by that, because I was going to say, okay, I can see people still picking the match because, just of the, what it would mean. So that's what I personally thought. And now, see, that really bums me out because, again, this should have been a main event. We should have been saying, dude, I'm so excited. This is going to be epic. Like, I remember when they announced the women's main event for WrestleMania 35, I thought, oh my God, this is so exciting. And it made sense because, they had Ronda, Charlotte, Becky. They were really doing the hottest thing at the moment. So it was kind of like, what the heck? And so anyways, I that really bums me out though. That really, really sucks.
Yeah. It bums me out too, because it should be the hottest feud right now. And yeah, unfortunately kind of isn't. And like, the 2 chats that we've got on this, Michael Riviera, who is the guy that actually set up this conversation, said, I still think Bobby versus Drew should headline night 1 because of it not being, it's not being perfect. It has been better than Sasha versus Bianca because of all the Reginald stuff. And Matthew Makovsky says, my thoughts on the main event. I want Sasha versus Bianca for the history side of things. I think Lashley versus Drew has had the better build. However, my main question is, why do people care? I mean, they're going to watch the whole show anyway.
Of course, because it's monumental. It's like no matter what, the main event is the main event. And when you go back and you look at, what was the main event for WrestleMania, like past WrestleManias, this is something that is looked on. It's a main event for a reason. People work for that spot for a reason because it's been, it's been a coveted spot, essentially. The biggest names of the biggest names have held that opportunity, can say, I main evented WrestleMania. There's a lot that comes with that. And so it does mean a lot.
Okay, right. Well, before we dive into your Patreon mailbag questions, Denise Salcedo, it was announced this week than Rob Zombie's King Freak off of his new album. Let me actually get this up on screen because otherwise I will get it wrong. The Lunar Injection Kool-Aid Eclipse Conspiracy is the new album. And the song Triumph of King Freak, A Crypt of Preservation and Superstition will be the theme song for NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver. We've been talking about Rob Zombie a lot on this show recently because he's just come up in regular conversation. You've now listened to the song. What did you think?
Okay, so before I get into this, I should let you know that a couple years back, I did the Rob Zombie maze. He had
yes, you did. Yeah.
Yeah, called
at Universal, right?
No, it was called Sinister Point, and it was in La Habra, California, like a couple years ago. And it was because I love like horror mazes. But it was the scariest thing I've ever done in my entire life because they actually made, this one was different from like the Universal ones and the Knott's ones and all of that. They actually like made you crawl in this like tiny little like black box where you like crawl for a while. And then they make you walk in a swamp and you can't see anything because it's pitch black, and it was terrifying. So here's the thing. They were playing Rob Zombie music, but I really wasn't listening because I was so scared. So I never really actually fully listened to Rob Zombie unless it's been like a theme song for a wrestler or a theme song in WWE in the past. So anyways, I completely forgot that I was supposed to do this. And so I saw your tweet and I said, shoot, they're promoting it. I look at the time, I have 10 minutes and I'm thinking my makeup's not done. My lights aren't up. But you know what? I used it. I put it on. It was like a 4-minute song. And I got to listen to it twice, actually, in those 10 minutes. And turns out that I didn't understand one word Rob Zombie was saying other than King Freak. I think I heard the word, what was something with an E. God, okay, I forgot the word. Anyways, I heard one other word, and then I heard devil a bunch of times, and that was it. All right. He sounds very, very angry. Too much for me in the morning. I need to be an angrier person to listen to Rob Zombie. And as I was listening to, I started thinking like, this is a great beat. Like it gets me excited. Like the second you press play, it's like, oof, I'm on. Like I'm on. I feel like I'm being electrocuted. Right. But I started thinking, how does Luke listen to this? You don't even know what he's saying. All you're really listening to is him yell King Freak a couple of times and then just listen. It's really just the beat, I feel, that you're listening to.
No, there's all of like Rob's great lyrics in there as well. Like you can make it out.
No, you cannot.
Listen intently, Denise. You can even make it out.
How do you listen intently when it's like all up in your ear? You can't listen intently. There are soft songs that I listen to that I still have to like really make out the lyrics, and that requires focus, but it's a soft song. And here I am listening to like, by the way, I don't know how many, I'm sure Rob Zombie fans listen to Rob Zombie any time of the day, but turns out in the morning, probably not the best idea. But you know what? I do feel pretty pumped.
I had it on this morning at 6 a.m. I got up this morning to do some work and I had it blaring out of my speakers at 6 a.m. this morning. And my wife came in.
Your neighbor.
My wife came into the office. My wife came into the office and was just like, what are you listening to? I was like, oh, Rob Zombie's new album. And she was like, is it good? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm really enjoying it. And I read out the title again. And she was like, that guy needs to grow up. Like, stop trying so hard. And I'm like, no, it's cool. And she's like, he's too old to be doing this now. I was like, no, he's not. He's only in his 50s. He's fine. And she was like, he's only in his 50s. Oh, the road has been rough on him. I was like, no, he looks cool. You leave him alone.
What does he look like now? I don't think I've seen a recent picture of him.
Okay, well, let's get Rob.
I have like makeup on my eyeball. It's really bothering me.
Apparently, he's doing a tour this year.
By the way, I didn't even realize it was. I knew we spoke about it being a new album, but when I went on Spotify and I typed in Rob Zombie, and I was like, well, where am I going to find the song? I had to go back to your tweet to even get the name of the song. I had to watch a little bit of the video to find the name of the song, and then I thought, yeah, Triple H would pick this song. This is very on par with all of that.
And he's got pride with WWE. He was one of the Raw guest hosts when they were doing like the guest GM stuff. He was Edge's theme song for about a year or so. This is Rob Zombie here in 2021. Look at him. Look how cool he is.
Okay, but you can't really see his face. Like, I'm sure he's got wrinkles underneath there. Like, you can't barely see anything.
God, I wish I could look that cool. Anyway, right. So.
You can grow out some. Does he have dreads or what are they?
Yeah,
Okay,
dreads,
get dreads, get yourself a big funky hat, get yourself like some man jewelry. And you're gonna look
I
fantastic.
compare it off. Like even when I had long hair, my hair was so like straight and long. I looked like I was from Hanson. I look like the drummer from Hanson. So it was just so straight and fine. Like
Did you braid it? You should have braided it.
I did try like a couple of times, like just trying because I was also massively into Korn at the time, and I wanted to look like Head, who was one of their guitarists, and he had like these wicked braids and stuff.
I've seen that. See, I confuse sometimes the guy from Korn with Rob Zombie. And then
come on now.
Don't they both kind of look similar though? I don't know.
No, they don't. No, they're white guys with beards. I guess they all do look alike, really, at the end of the day. It's like WWE's main roster guide, like the white guys with beards and black hair.
I remember one time I was asked about ZZ Top, and I was like, yeah, that guy showed up at, I think he was at WrestleMania at some point with like the big beard and all of that. And I only know these people based on whether or not they've appeared on wrestling at some point in time. So I don't really know these people.
If you were to score it out of 5, what would you give the song?
Okay, I would love, like, if I were Triple H and I wanted like a new theme song, this would definitely be up there as like I would select it. Now, will I go back and re-listen to the song on my own accord? Will I go back and listen to the album? Maybe not, but I would give it a good solid 7.
Okay, very, very nice. So 7 out of 10. I think that's a fine score. I've been bugging my wife with it all week. She's got a track on the album called Crow Killer, and I just keep walking around the house singing like, "I am the Crow Killer." It's doing my wife's head in. Anyway,
your poor wife. She's like, "I'm not in the mood for this. I'm a grown woman with a job."
Going on drives, like we go on a long drive, we have a shared playlist. And like
you guys share playlists. You're allowed to listen to your own music.
We've got a shared playlist and stuff, and it's got some like tracks that she likes on it, and I have a lot of Slayer on there, and she does not like it when all the Slayer tracks come on. Okay,
that is very sweet because in my relationship, I cue the music. I pick the music. We listen to my music. If he wants to listen to his own music, connect the Bluetooth. Put yourself some headphones on or something. I ain't listening to your music because my fiance likes to listen to like the Misfits and like the Dropkick Murphys. He likes. I love the Dropkick Murphys. Actually, they're fine to listen to. Like I think it's Tiger Army. Right? Tiger Army?
Yeah.
I think so. Like, I've heard this a million times and I already forgot. But he listens to like that type of music. And like, there are songs that I can tolerate that I can listen to. Like, I can listen to a couple of the Misfits songs and all of that. But everything else for me is just noise.
We've got one more hyper chat in as well about this main topic, which we'll do before we get into the Patreon mailbag from Marmalade Squeeze, who said it's simple. Let two baby faces trying to outdo each other be the build-up. Have them in matches that show their strengths, and in the end, beat the clock gauntlet with the winner determining the stipulation. Let the workhorses do their thing. I mean, it's a good idea, but I think we need more Reginald in there. That's what it's missing.
Yeah, I just need to see Nia Jax spanking Reginald 100 times, and I need to see him do flips in the dressing room because we all do that. Yeah.
Right. Let's get into your Patreon mailbag questions. If you want to submit a question to the mailbag, all you've got to do is become one of our awesome pledge hammers on Patreon at any dollar amount. Leave your comments in the community section. Do not email me. We'll just lose it. Bad at my job. Duncan is kicking things off this week to say, hi, Team Danuk. Hope is all well in the land of the USA and not London. Look, you're a horror fan, so I'll ask you for your advice. Watch The Shining, The Exorcist, Silence of the Lambs. Do you have any recommendations, Denise?
I've seen all of those.
Do you have any films you'd like to recommend, horror or not?
I've watched some horror films. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like The Shining. That's nice. No, I really did watch it, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I believe you.
Which one was the other? Oh, Silence of the Lambs. That's the one where the guy like takes off the skin and he puts somebody in a hole. That one was pretty good. I actually think I like that one more than The Shining.
Yeah, it's a great film. Absolute stone cold classic of a movie.
I don't think I like The Exorcist very much because that one's really terrifying. Like, I feel like that can really happen. So I'm like, nah, I don't want that.
I mean, I would recommend, like, if you're looking for a franchise, well, and like you sound like you're after some classics and some perhaps with sequels that aren't so great, I'd recommend The Omen. go with the Omen as your next bout, man, with like Damien, and then like because that's got a bunch of sequels and stuff, and like a remake and everything. So maybe that could dive into the Omen next.
Does The Conjuring count as horror, or does it just count as like a thriller? Because I watched The Conjuring and I had nightmares for like 2 weeks about that. Like anything that involves like spirits and like devils going inside of a human body, to me is very, very terrifying, because you always hear those rumors where it's like, yeah, it's true, and like the church is just like covered up or something. And I was like, what? Like, is that for real? And so that stuff really terrifies me. Like I always tell my grandma, like, this is a joke. We're always like, ay, que no se vaya a meter el chamuco. Basically, that means like don't let the devil go inside of you. But in Spanish, and I always tell my grandma that I hope the chamuco doesn't come.
My mum went to the pictures to see The Exorcist when it first came out, and I believe she nearly walked out because she was a Catholic girl, and it scared the crap out of her.
Because you've heard the stories. They tell you like this is things that the Catholic Church has like, you know, they've had to get those spirits out of people. And I mean, I know some people think like, oh, it's probably not true, but I'm like, what if it is? That's not something I necessarily want to find out.
Matthew Makovsky says, hey, Team Danuke. My question is going to be making comparisons of stars from WWE to AEW. Like, who is the MJF of WWE? I personally think it's The Miz.
God, no.
So who do you think is the Kenny Omega of WWE?
See, I don't know if I like doing this type of stuff. And you want to know why? Because I hate when people say in any sort of, it doesn't matter what form of entertainment we're talking about or what subject we're talking about. I don't like when people say this is the next person or the next this person or that person. I'm not a fan of that, because I always feel like whoever it is, they got themselves over. They got themselves in that position due to their uniqueness, their ability. So I can't necessarily say, oh, this is like the Kenny Omega of WWE, because I think Kenny Omega is doing his own thing. Same thing for MJF. And it would be the opposite way too. Like if you were to say who's the Finn Balor of AEW, I'd be like, no, Finn Balor's Finn Balor. So do you have a better answer for this?
Well, I mean, like I would only say Roman in the sense that like, because he's the top guy. So I'd be like, oh yeah, Roman Reigns is the Kenny Omega, because Kenny Omega is the top guy of AEW. Roman Reigns is the top guy of WWE, and that's pretty much like the only way I can make the comparison of the two, really.
So
and
I
like
think,
in the same, go on.
Oh no, because I understood the question as who can have the type of matches that Kenny Omega has. So that's how I understood the question, which is why it's like.
Yeah, like no one can do that. Like no one can have like Kenny matches. Like because only Kenny can have those Kenny matches, and like only Roman, I would say, can do those Roman matches at the moment. There's no one else in the wrestling world that is doing Roman Reigns matches right now because it's so personal to him, and it only works for his character. So yeah, I think so. But like if I would say like who are the young bucks of WWE, I'd probably say the Usos, because they also do lots of high flying and lots of super kicks. So I think you could probably make that.
Or it could be like a very young MSK, the very young version of the Young Bucks.
Dwayne the Gronk Johnson said, if you could be in the crowd for any WrestleMania, which one would it be? I'm picking X7. That is the WrestleMania I wish I could have been part of.
I picked that one too. And you want to know why? Because that was the first WrestleMania I got to watch on TV.
Nice.
So I have fond memories of it. Like I remember like being really excited for it. And it was like this big deal. Like my uncle bought all this food. And so I have fond memories. Like, I can still remember my living room and what it looked like with the TV on watching WrestleMania 17.
Yeah, so many people in the chat are also saying 30, which would have been really fun to be a part of. For like being part of WrestleMania would have been so good.
Yeah, seriously.
Brilliant.
I would like to just be front row at any WrestleMania, though. Have you ever been front row to a WWE event?
No, I've been on like the ground sort of floor, but I've never been front row for a like on the hard cam side or anything else. And that was on like the very first Raw taping I ever went to, which is in 2005, maybe. But Batista just won the title from Triple H, so it must have been 2005. And I was on like the floor seats then, behind the commentators, but like I was about like 6 or 7 rows back. But yes, I've never been like properly front row, but that's like the closest I've ever been.
Same. And I really want to be a front row person someday. I don't know when, someday.
Hanging out with that lad and his mum. The real Shorty G, Aaron says, Hey guys, do you think CM Punk's pipe bomb was good or bad for fans? Because after this, people started criticizing WWE and wrestling as a whole a lot more. Just a thought. I would say, Aaron, I think that is that's causation and correlation. It's just the like Punk's like. I'll be honest with you, if you. Prior to Punk's pipe bomb, people were criticizing WWE all the time. It was just on message boards. It was just on the smartmarks.com or the Wrestling Observer like message boards. That was but it wasn't like a public thing. But Punk's promo was just also as the Twitter was like wrestling Twitter was on the rise as well. So there's like the two just sort of crossed over. Now it's just more in a public form. So all of the complaints that that I have had as a wrestling fan on message boards since the late 90s into the 2000s were exactly the same then as they are now. And it's just that now it's on Twitter and it's just in a public form as opposed to being on the smartmarks.com.
Yeah, I completely agree with that because there was like such a long time that I wasn't even on Twitter. I wasn't on anything. Like I wasn't messaging with anybody. I was just keeping all my thoughts to myself or posting them on Facebook for like my family members to see who didn't even care. So it is really weird to see like how now it's such a big part of, just big part of like life now. It's like tweeting my thoughts about the shows.
Totally, but like they used to do storylines through Twitter and stuff. Now there have
I
been
would
times
miss
like
all that stuff. I would miss it.
Yeah. There have been times where I remember me and Ollie doing a review of a show being like, I don't know where this feud started from. And someone must be like, oh, it started on Twitter. And I was like, well, I mean, cool. Tell me that on TV. Then tell me that this started as a Twitter beat because I'm not always on Twitter checking everything.
Yeah, exactly. And I try to think about that because there are times where like I'll see things and you kind of feel because you're in this like bubble of like wrestling commentary that everybody's in there, and that's not true. Like I still feel there are plenty of people like I was, because I didn't join Twitter. I think officially I didn't really start tweeting until like late 2017, maybe late 2018. So I started really late, like actually tweeting my thoughts and whatnot. So I'm thinking, all right, if I started late, there's probably other people that are just like, nah, not for me. I still watch, but just not for me to tweet about it.
I celebrated my 11th Twitter birthday fairly recently. I don't know because apparently Twitter tweeted out being like, "You've been on here for 11 years." And I was like,
congratulations.
What a waste of time. Thank you. Thank you very much. And also thank you to Flaming Live for your fantasy booking that you sent across. I'm not going to go into it now because we are pressed for time, but it was basically about kind of like making this idea of, because now NXT have got their women's tag belts, that it's used as a way to start a war between Raw and SmackDown versus NXT and NXT UK to build like to a Survivor Series thing. We sent across to Adam. He's the fantasy booking guy. I mean, it's very unlikely that it will ever happen. But I'm all for like sort of as long as it means something. Because like Survivor Series means nothing at the moment. It means diddly squats. Just like Raw versus SmackDown. Like who cares? Who could possibly care about Raw versus SmackDown? So like as long as it means something, then I'll be into it.
Diddly squat. I'm going to use that from now on. You're means welcome. Diddly squat.
Forrest says, not a question, but I can sympathize with Denise when it comes to mobile game purchases. Some games are completely unplayable without spending real life money on them. Stopped playing 1 after 2 weeks after its first release when I realized it was entirely pay to play. My suggestion is to work 1 week's of purchases into your monthly budget.
Yeah. So, after we had this conversation, I would hear your voice, like my mother in my head. Denise, don't buy stuff. Denise, don't buy stuff. And I said, well, what does he know? What am I going to do for fun? I need to relax. God darn it. So I bought 2 creams because they were doing double points. So I bought $65 worth of face cream.
$65?
Yeah, but
what?
It worked out though. So and you know what's sad? I had already bought a cream. So remember I told you I bought one that was like $25. Yes, I bought 2 more. So instead, I thought about it this way. I need cream. I gave one to my grandma. I bought a day one for me, a night one for me. I spent $65 and I got like almost 300,000 diamonds. That lasted me like a good almost 2 weeks.
$65.
But I got the cream though.
But you already had some.
No, I didn't. I needed cream. I gave the other one to my grandma. She needed cream too.
Well, now you've got an abundance of the stuff in the house.
Yeah, and I saw they're selling this thing, like, I forgot what the name of the brand is, but it's like a bunch of male products. And I asked my fiance, I was like, hey, do you need male products? He's like, Denise, I use the same thing for everything. So no, I don't. And I was like, dang it. I was like, I need to buy something else from this app so I can get diamonds. But there's nothing else that I can buy. Like, there was a dog bed. I don't have a dog.
No, of course you like. How do they get you? Like they must have hit the jackpot when they got you onto this game.
They really did. Like, I'm keeping them funded.
Right, I've got to move on. Marcel Jura says, remembering the Daniel Pewter hazing from the Rumble 05 by the hands of Benoit Guerrero and Bob Holly. Well, boy, howdy do I. By that time, that was the worst case scenario, their heaviest consolation of workers to do the punishment. I wonder who would be the three guys from WWE today to do the same punishment. Now, his three picks here might be the best answer, which is Thatcher, Walter, and Cesaro.
That probably would be, but it's more of like, I think it's not just, it's more of the mentality. I think you have to have that mentality of, hey, this guy didn't work didn't work hard for this. This guy has heat, etc. For whatever reasons it is. It's more of the mentality, I think, that the wrestler has to have in order to do that. And it's funny that you mentioned that he mentions this, because I was just rewatching this clip, this match actually. God, when was it? Like a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, I was rewatching it and I just thought to myself, like, part of me understood why they did it, but the other part of me was just like, oh, that's messed up. You know? Yeah.
One of my favorites, because I would throw Brock Lesnar into there only because, like, do you remember when the Brock Rumble, it was many years ago now, and then the Wyatt family, all four members of the Wyatt family were in there trying to beat up Brock, and he got super mad at Braun Strowman because Braun wasn't selling for him. So he was just like, oh, I'll just start hitting you for real then. So he just starts like wailing on Braun Strowman, and Braun's going like, oh no, don't hit me too hard.
No, and it's crazy, like, going back in hindsight, because there are a lot of moments that I didn't know, like, a wrestler was being stiffed, right? But there are a lot of things that now I go back, and because now I know about that stuff, and I see it, and I'm like, oh my God, like, this rings so much differently now than it did back then. Because back then I couldn't tell, you know, I was young, I didn't really know anything, so I couldn't really tell. And now that I know the stories, going back, it's like, oh man, like, this guy was really legit, you know, being taught a lesson at this moment.
I remember the review of that Rumble, Brian Alvarez and Vinny V talking about it, and Brian like talks about, because like after he beats up Braun, he then gives a German suplex to Luke Harper, and like he's like, I've never seen a wrestler want to roll out of a ring faster than Brody Lee after he took that German suplex. Like, oh, I gotta get out of here! Like, I'm not doing that again.
It's wild, man. I'm sure there's like so many more like other stories. I love that. I love those kind of stories though. Like, I like to know that type of stuff. Not that it happens, but I like to know about it.
Ket said, what's up, guys? Which paper world champion do you wish had a better run than they got? For me, it's Jericho back in 01 to 02. I wish he was treated like a legit undisputed champion.
I second that one, especially because I was such a big Jericho fan. Like, he was really the one that, like, when I started watching wrestling, it was Jericho that really kept me there and kept me following along with everything, because I was rooting for the guy, you know?
Yeah, maybe I'd pick like Punk's first run that he had when he had the world title that he won, and they basically just like took it off him in a backstage segment. I kind of wish, just so I could see what that run could have been. Like, they never gave him the full push, anything. Like, they always say like, oh, you know, the belt doesn't make the man, like the man makes the belt, and unfortunately he wasn't making that belt. But
they
yeah,
I kind of a chance, because he was over.
Yeah, but they didn't give him a shot. They didn't give him a shot. I'd like to have seen him get a shot.
Exactly. And if he wasn't, I don't think people would still be talking about him to this day. Like, there's a reason why people still talk about CM Punk, because I think the fans that he had were really, really fans of him. They weren't just like, oh, I'm fans of him because he's in WWE, right? Like, no, I feel like he really, really had this like bond connection with his fans.
Jonathan Hedman, a couple of questions that either of you could answer rather. Luke, what's your opinion on the MST3K versions of the Godzilla movies? Love them. I love MST3K, and I love them doing any movie. I think those two guys are hilarious. And Denise, if Taylor Swift was to do something in wrestling and asked for your advice on who or what she should do, or what sort of angle that she would do, what would you say? What would be your advice?
I'd say don't do it.
Yeah,
I'd say don't do it. Don't get into the wrestling world. Do something else.
It'll bring your brand down.
You know what I think is hilarious? You know what I think is, and I do agree, which is sad. It's sad because, you know, we're wrestling fans, but it's sad that, you know, the mainstream world sees wrestling as a low form of entertainment. But you know what's funny though, is that you get all the interesting questions and I get all the same questions. I want to talk about Godzilla and King Kong.
Do you want to talk
Not
about
really.
them, Denise?
But I did watch a little bit of the trailer though.
Yeah, what did you make of it?
I thought, who the hell watches this?
Me, I do. I can't wait,
it's just so, I think it's so
Denise.
like lame.
Dude, it's so cool. Like there's the big lizard dude and a big like ape dude, and they're gonna beat the crap out of each other. It's gonna be, and there's gonna be buildings that fall down, stuff's gonna blow up. Oh, it's gonna be rad.
I thought to myself, I was like, I'm gonna tell Luke that I'm gonna watch the movie. You know what? I'm gonna watch the movie. And then I was watching some wrestling show. I don't even know what I was watching. And the commercial came on. And I thought, oh no, I'm not going to tell Luke that. Hell no, this looks terrible. I can't buy this.
Me and my wife, we're getting that day one because you can get it on like home premiere and stuff and we can rent it. So we're like day one, it's out. That's our Friday evening story.
When is it coming out?
It's like, it's early. I think it's early next month. I think it's like early April. So like, it's going to be one of our Friday date nights, and I cannot wait. Yeah. So do you know what? Actually, that reminded me. You know when you said like you get asked the same questions all the time?
Yeah.
I was at the press conference for the first Avengers movie. And I was like, really, it was one of my first ever press conferences I ever did. And I was really nervous about it. So I didn't actually ask a question. I just basically was taking notes and recording it for a podcast. And there was like a guy who asked a question, and they asked Robert Downey Jr. about, was it Robert Downey Jr.? I think it was. I think it was asking Robert Downey Jr. about like the complexities of the Iron Man character after Iron Man 2 and sort of like this, that, and the other. And then asked Scarlett Johansson, what was your diet for the movie? And
oh God, no. There was like a whole movement from actresses that said, ask us serious questions. What did she say?
Scarlett Johansson was like, why do I always get the rabbit questions? Like the rabbit food questions. That's all I ever get. Like he got to ask a question about his character. And I was just like, no, I get to talk about salads.
You're like, yes, I had a biscuit. You know, I hate those. Have you ever seen those videos? The ones where the star, like everything I eat in a day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I watch those. They make you feel terrible because I realize how much more I'm eating than these people. And I'm thinking, dang, that explains a whole lot.
Independence I won. I was rewatching Endgame and I cried when Cap said those words, Avengers Assemble. Me too.
Okay,
it got me
who's your favorite, like from the Avengers?
Captain America.
Oh, you suck, Luke.
What do you mean I suck? Cap's
you
the
suck.
best.
No, it's Iron Man. Iron Man's literally the best. He's got charisma. He's funny. He's charming. He's rich. He can do all the smart tech stuff. What does Captain America do?
I'm hearing you describe Captain America. He is handsome. He is funny. He is
not
witty.
handsome.
He's charisma.
No.
What?
No.
Are you
Captain
high?
Not
Are
handsome.
you high?
No.
Chris Evans is one of the most handsome men on the planet. Are you out of your mind?
Robert Downey Jr. is way hotter. Sorry. I stand by this statement. I've had this argument. I will keep having it. Besides, there's nothing charming about him. He has to have a charming personality, and he does not have a charming personality.
This is absolutely outrageous. My brother's girlfriend, she's never watched the movies at all. She's only just started watching them, and she did not like Captain America either for the same reason. She was like, he's a bit boring. And I was like,
he's so vanilla. He's like lame. There's nothing to him.
He the first MCU character to make me cry when I went to the cinema to see it, because there's a movie in the first Avenger when he's on the plane and he's not meant to be going because he's meant to just be this symbol of like the USO shows, go there and entertain the troops, and he's on this plane, he's defying the orders, and Peggy Carter says like, you can't, I tell you what to do, I'm giving you orders, and he's like, the hell I can't, I'm a captain. He presses it, and I was like, oh God, he's a captain, he's Captain America, and I proper cried, and it makes me like, just thinking about it now, it makes me cry again.
I feel like he's more, I don't know, because I don't really know this world. So this is really just me talking out of like the brief knowledge that I know about this, is that I feel like Captain America is more over with guys because that's how guys want to see themselves. And they're like, oh, I want to be Captain America. Like, that's me.
It's just cool, man. And he also got my favorite film.
He's not cool. He's like the third coolest one because I think Thor's cooler. Thor is way cooler.
Because Thor can, like, have some funny lines and stuff. Doesn't make him cooler.
No, he's cooler. He's more like good looking. He's got like everything. He's like more like manlier, like I like that.
No, I mean, someone said Hawkeye is still no one's favorite. He's Laurie Blake's favorite. Laurie Blake loves Hawkeye. This is his favorite character. Anyway, Independent Taiwan said, it got me thinking about how you guys would book the moment when Chuck Taylor finally says the S word on TV to make it as memorable as possible. I have absolutely no idea how to do that. Just have him say it, I guess.
I could care less. Really, I could.
And also thank you to Jamie Donovan for your fantasy booking that you sent in. Again, pass it on to Adam because he's the man who can kind of give some good feedback on this. But I mean, what do you like to see like Jimmy Uso do when he comes back? Which is what Jamie's fantasy booking was about.
Well, I think he definitely obviously has to go in this whole thing with Roman Reigns and everything that they're doing with Jay and Paul and all of that. Now, it would be shocking because I know somebody else mentioned this on my SmackDown post show that it would be shocking if he came back and he wasn't on their side. That would be pretty interesting, but I don't see that happening. Obviously, I see him joining forces with them.
Yeah, I think so too. Greg Barber, the Royal Rumble from 1997 has got its fair share of slack, but I believe that the last 10 people in the ring are like The Undertaker, The Rock, Mankind, Bret Hart, Vader, The Bulldog, Steve Austin, Funk. He's written here Kevin Nash, but it's fake Diesel. Can you think of any time in history where there was that many people in the ring who would be considered legends?
I'm sure there's more. I just can't think of it right now.
I think the 2001 Rumble is like a stacked Rumble. Like whenever you look at that, like, and there was also a Rumble where it felt like anyone could win that year. I mean, there was obviously Steve Austin, but still, like, yeah, it just felt like there was loads of people there. This could be the year that they win this Rumble. And I think the 20.
Remember when it was Santino Marella and Sheamus as the final two in the Rumble? Oh, that was so depressing.
Was it the 2018 Rumble where it was like you had Brock, Undertaker, Goldberg, like, and they had this thing. It was like it's the most star-studded Rumble of all time. Like, I think that would have been one that you could probably have as well. Chris has got a very interesting question here, which is says, as you could probably guess, I'm a big fan of Alexa Bliss, and I often hear about her current gimmick with people asking why Alexa Bliss has powers now. I'm just to interject here. I don't know why people are asking that. It's quite obvious. The Fiend gave her powers. Like
what? How was that obvious?
Well, the Fiend gave her powers.
I guess you're right. What are her powers, though? She's telekinesis.
She's telekinesis. Yeah, she's got telekinesis. But Chris argues here that Alexa's always had power. She's always been a fairly supernatural character. She was a pixie in NXT. On SmackDown, someone called her a wicked witch. On Raw, she was a goddess. I hope that they can make her a dark goddess, and it was just like the Fiend released her from her mortal vessel. My question is, how long before we can see her as the champion again? And is she on the verge of becoming the female Undertaker?
Like for me, this whole storyline has been like, I'm figuring it out every week very slowly since this is not really my forte. Like, I don't really know, like, even like for some reason, like I need to have this thing explained to me. That's what I'm trying to get at here with this Alexa Bliss storyline. I don't think she's in line to become the female Undertaker or anything like that. I think that this, will last a while, but I do think we'll go back to seeing her as, the goddess Alexa Bliss. I do like everything that she's doing. I mean, I've said that a million times, but this is interesting though. Like, because how do you go back from something like this? You just don't revert back to what, there's a two polar opposite things.
Yeah, just a couple of corrections. Well, 2017 Rumble is the one I was thinking of. Thank you for the chat. And it was Alberto Del Rio, not the Sheamus ending with.
Thanks. Santino. I don't know why I thought wasn't it Sheamus? Why am I remembering Sheamus?
Sheamus was Sheamus and Jericho, wasn't it? Was the final two because everyone thought that Jericho should have won that year's Rumble.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yes. Hollywood Salcedo #1 fan Adam Gibbons says, my question about plans for the podcast going forward. Once COVID restrictions are lifted in the UK, will you be going back to the studio to do podcasts together or keeping it in this format? I understand the magazine show and Quizzlemanias will remain like this because the guests are in the States, but will review shows go back to the studio? I really miss seeing you boys together. Yep, absolutely. Once everything is safe, probably until we're like all fully vaccinated is when we will go back, like when we've had both of our shots. That's And like that will be probably the time that we all start going back into the studio, because that will be when it's like a fully safe thing to do. And I think the plan is like for most of us to kind of get like, in our age bracket, because we're all old, is like by sort of April, May time, although it might be later than that now. I think by sort of September, October, we should be fully vaccinated.
I think you might be sooner, because they just announced, well, for California yesterday, April 1st, anybody over 50 can get it. And then April 15th, it's open to anybody over the age of 16. So April 15th, I can start getting my first vaccination.
Oh, that's cool. I don't know. I mean, I'm waiting to get my letter, basically. Once it's my turn, and then I'll take my turn. I'd much rather people get it before I do, in terms of like, if they need it, I'd much rather they have it before me. Like I'm not an important person who needs it. I'd much rather just like people, like actual people who need it can get it first. But yes, we will be back in the studio at some point this year. Although he does say as well, like if you came to the UK, would you do some shows with us?
Well, if I was in the UK, I'd probably be sightseeing. Just kidding. Yeah, of course.
Callum said, who do you think the first person to come out for the first show with a full crowd for WWE and AEW? I think it should be Drew for WWE and Jericho, or Cody for AEW. Didn't
we get this question similar to this question? But it was for WrestleMania, wasn't it?
I think it was for Mania, yeah. Like,
and we said Seth Rollins.
Yeah, Rollins, I think we said, because like Rollins versus Cesaro, just because it'll be a real like workhorse match. Yeah, I suppose like whoever is the big baby face at the time. Like for AEW, I'd love it to be Kenny. Like for like them to do like the full big entrance and stuff, and he just like hits his first entrance in front of a crowd, not in North Carolina, and like I would say Kenny Omega for AEW, and like with the first full crowd there.
I'm gonna go with Jurassic Express because I like the song.
I mean, yeah, they've just given Orange Cassidy "Where Is My Mind" by the Pixies. I love that song. That would be a rad one to do. Sam Sweeney, last year I was supposed to go to my first ever taped episode of WWE, having gone to a few live events at Butlins and regularly going to my local promotion 4FW. I was finally ready to go and watch an actual episode take. Then lockdown happened, and it's been delayed twice now. It will probably be delayed again. What are some of your favorite moments of seeing wrestling live?
Oh my God, I have so many. You know what, though? My favorite one, to be honest, or one of my favorite ones was I did Bound for Glory. God, when it was in Irvine. It was like early 2010s, maybe 2010, 2008, somewhere around there, right? Bound for Glory in Irvine was when I went. Mm-hmm. And that was such a great show. And I had really good seats too. I was like in the 4th row, and it was one of the best live wrestling shows I ever attended. Then I also did another Impact House show, and I was a lot younger then. So they did this thing that was like, oh, like whoever's like the loudest fan gets to go backstage.
Jeremy Borash comes out and he's just like, whoever's the loudest fan tonight will get a backstage ticket.
I was selected. I got to go backstage. Yeah, I went backstage and I was so excited. I had never gone backstage before, so that was like my first official time. And so I went and I was like walking around, trying to get my little picture. So that was really fun. And then, there's just too many. There was like all of this like Raw shows that I went to at the Arrowhead Pond of Anaheim. That was really fun. So there's just so many. I don't know. I can't pick them all. There was one time though, I think one of my first Raws in Anaheim, I was somewhere in like the ground area, and I don't even remember what the hell happened. But in the end, Austin was like doing his beer thing, and like a piece of beer, like a drop of beer landed on my shoulder. And I was like a kid then. So I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna stink like alcohol, this and that. But it was such a cool experience. I think one time I think I even got Triple H to spit on me one time when he did the spitting thing, because I was also like really close up, and I'm pretty sure that happened, and maybe it was in my head. I don't know. But that happened too. So that's something that stuck out in my head. I mean, I just have like a million memories from like a lot of live events.
From WWE sides, like I was actually thinking about this in the week. I can count on just over one hand the amount of WWE shows I've been to. But like NXT TakeOver London was like one of my favorite shows that I've ever attended. I absolutely me and my friend John had such a great time because we struggled to get tickets. Like I was there like when the tickets were released to buy them, and like by the time I'd refreshed the page when it went live, they'd already sold out. So like I had to buy these dreadful tickets, like absolutely awful seats. And like I was looking at them, and I was like, oh man, I don't think it's going to be particularly great seats. And we went there and we picked them up. And when we actually got to our seat, they were worse than I could have thought, because we were
they were worse.
Worse, because we were like right at the back, like right at the back. We could actually touch the back wall of the arena. Like that's how, like, we were literally on the back row of things. And my friend was actually starting to get like a bit of vertigo, because we were like so like high up and so like sort of at an angle. He was like, I don't feel great, man. So I went down to the ticket office, and I said, I lied, and I said, oh, my mum got me these tickets, but like, you know, she didn't realize. I'm like, my friend's now getting vertigo because of them. And he was like, oh, let me see what I could do. Ticket. Oh yeah, go and take these 2 seats instead. They just put us in the press area, and so we were then got awesome seats.
But they weren't high up. Usually the press area is sometimes high up too.
Oh no, we had like this whole sort of seat area. It was basically like for sort of press and like special people, like celebrities and stuff like that. So like we had banging seats. We were like basically just by the basically just sort of above the ring and stuff. You can actually see us on camera on the NXT, because like I said, they taped an episode of NXT as well, like for the week after. And you can see us during, I think it's Enzo and Cass's entrance. So yeah, like we had an absolutely wicked time. Like it was so good. And I was there for and I was such a Bailey mark as well. And she was defending the title against Nia Jax. I was genuinely worried that Bailey was going to drop the belt to her. So I was like so emotionally invested in her beating Nia Jax. Oh, it was brilliant. I think we
all went through like a Bailey phase though. But for reals though, going through that, having to sit someplace really high is terrifying. It most recently happened to me, WrestleMania 35. I went to the Takeover show in Brooklyn. And I forget the name of the actual arena, but in Brooklyn where they did the Hall of Fame and everything, the press tickets were all the way at the top. Luke, it was so bad. I couldn't move. I literally could not move. Yeah. I was sitting there and I was like, I can't move. And my fiance was like, Denise, I'm going to go get some snacks. I was like, no, Sandra, you can't get up. Do not get up. Don't move. And like people that I knew were coming to sit down in the press section, and they were standing up talking to me. And I was like, yeah, I was like, sit down. You're making me nervous. And it was so bad. Like it was a horrible experience. Like just sitting so high up, I was terrified. It took like a good solid hour to get comfortable,
get used to it. Yeah. We had that one with the Hello Wembley, the Progress show. We were like that was they put the press right up in the nosebleeds for that at Wembley Arena. But actually, funny enough, when I got to my tickets, I got my seats and I went to sit down there. About 5 rows down and to the left, Ollie Davis was there. And I just shouted, I was like, Davis. And he was turned around and was like, what the hell are you doing here? I thought you were like way up there. I was like, I know, I got better seats now.
So he had the brilliant seats and you're all in the nosebleeds.
Oh, yeah. Alex Kirkman said, this may be a very unpopular opinion from people, but does anyone else think that Ric Flair is massively overrated? Any decent match he had was a result of other people in the ring. His promo skills, albeit second to none in the 80s and 90s, consisted of rambling and woos. His wrestling repertoire was samey and boring. I will never understand what people saw in him. I don't think I'd put him in my top 100 of all time.
What's your answer? I need to hear your answer before I give mine.
He's one of the best to ever do it. Like it's more like wrestling is more than just like wrestling is more than just what you do in the ring. And Flair was one of the best to do it in the ring. He could control a crowd like no one else. And like, same with Hogan. Hogan can do he could do anything. Like he could do leg drop and a big boo, and that was pretty much about it. To some tests of strength, but he knew how to control the crowd. Flair knew how to wind a crowd up as a heel, and he just looked so good doing it. And I loved his promos. Like he is one of the best of all time.
Yeah, I second everything you said.
Mm-hmm. One of the best to ever do it. Marcus says, who could you realistically see beating Nick Aldis for the NWA World Championship?
Oh, I don't really watch NWA, so I'm a little out on this one.
Yeah, I really don't know. Like, I don't feel like NWA's got like any sort of, I don't know on that.
It's never like, I hate to say it, but it's never been, I don't feel like I'm the target audience for NWA Power or anything like that. Like, it doesn't appeal to me. Like, it doesn't appeal to me at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Isaiah has got, I'm going to truncate your question just slightly, Isaiah. I do apologize for that. But it's basically about like, would you like to see Jeff Hardy in AEW? Because like Matt has said that he thinks that he's a bit misused in WWE and he'd like to see him come over to AEW. So, I mean, would you like to see Jeff over in AEW as well?
I think there's too much going on AEW right now for Jeff Hardy. And there's other people that are doing what he can do. And they're younger. So it's kind of like,
Yeah, like my worry would be that like you'd just get another Hardy Boys nostalgia run, and like
Right.
I saw that like 5 or so years ago, whatever it was. Like I think I'm pretty much over a Hardy Boys nostalgia run now.
But at the same time, like they're not doing him justice in WWE either. So I don't really know what the right answer is here.
I actually forgot he had a match with The Miz this week, and like legit, I did the recap on Raw, I did it on the news, and I did it on the podcast. I nearly forgot it happened twice.
And you know what's funny is that you were just saying that he was your person that you get most excited
I know, right?
And now I think about you every time he comes out. I'm like, I wonder if Luke's excited. He's probably not even excited now.
I am absolutely not. Yep, to answer your question, I am not.
They
Josh
ruined
said,
it for you.
Josh said something different for you this week. What do you think would surprise people the most about being a content creator? Something that maybe surprised you when you first experienced it yourself?
Not that it surprised me. Well, maybe it didn't surprise me. It was just more firsthand. It's a lot of work and a lot of things you have to learn on your own, that in bigger companies, you have a person for each little tiny thing. When it's just you, it's just you. And it's a lot of work. And here's the thing, you don't nearly get as much rewards for all the work that you're doing. The rewards that you get don't essentially correlate exactly with the amount of hours that you're spending on this video or on this whatever. And there's a lot of back end stuff that goes into stuff that I don't think people realize. A lot of back end work that goes into like getting interviews and just like coming up with the videos, scheduling the video, whatever the video is. There's a lot of back end work that goes into that. And I don't think people realize that either.
Yeah, for me, it was actually like learning about viewership patterns on videos. So like when me and Ollie first started doing WrestleTalk Podcast, it was basically like, so that was one of the reasons I came in, was because Ollie wanted to do more long form content, because that was what YouTube's algorithm was at the time. Because like the WrestleTalk news used to be like 4-5 minute videos, and we're doing 4 to 5 minute videos a day. But YouTube was saying like, well, yeah, but your watch time's really short because you're only doing 4 to 5 minute videos. So we were like, okay, well, cool, we'll do some longer form content then. So I came in to kind of help with that side of things, and we would just start doing the podcast. And at the start of things, we would have like, okay, here's our title, here's our thumbnail, and we're, reviewing Raw or whatever. But we would just start just having a chat. Like we would just start the podcast just being like having a chat. Here's what I've been watching this week, this, that, and the other. And when we kind of looked into the analytics, like the viewership for like was just tanking, like absolutely tanking out the first 30 seconds, because people were clicking on a video, not realizing that you're talking about the topic that's in the title or the thumbnail, and clicking off of it, being like, I haven't got time to sit around and wait for you to talk about this. If you're telling me that this is what the title is, give it to me now. Like that is what I'm after. So we had to like completely reformat the show. And when we did, there were loads of people that were being like, whatever happened to like you just chatting at the start of like videos and stuff? And we're like, we had to stop doing it, because if we did it, people weren't watching the video. So now like when we used to do the Raw and SmackDown reviews together, we would just review them in order. But there would be like a title and a thumbnail regarding to like what the big talking point of that week was. And we just that's why the show's format the way it is now. We talk about the big talking point at the start of the show, because that is what people have clicked on the video to see. And it totally makes sense. Like it totally does. Like, it totally makes sense. But I didn't expect it. I thought if people are watching a podcast video, they're just going to expect a longer form discussion. And then, the thing that you kind of expect them to talk about will eventually come, right?
It's so interesting, like the viewing patterns too, because it's just like you learn so much about like even doing like a pre-recorded video versus a live streamed video, versus having the podcast version on the audio is different viewer habits than the video version of it. So it's like, it can sometimes be two different worlds,
Oh yeah, podcasts. That was the other thing as well, actually, was people not knowing what podcasts are. Like I was really, because I've always been into podcasts. Like I've been doing podcasts since like the late 2000s. Like I think my first podcast I ever did was in like 2007, 2008. And so when I came to work for WrestleTalk in 2016 or whatever it was, I just kind of assumed that everyone was listening to podcasts. And then I would talk about podcasts on like the show, and people were like, what the hell's a podcast? And like, and I think even now there are people who don't really know what podcasts are. And
now still, even though it's so like there's so many.
So there was a study done recently that Apple I was talking about someone with this, that Apple aren't saying you to, their advice to people is don't tell people to subscribe to your podcast, because people hear the word subscribe and they think of a gym membership. They think of Netflix. They think you've got to pay for it. So they don't know that podcasts are free. So they're telling you what you should do now is tell people to follow your podcast, because you follow people on Twitter, you follow people on Instagram. That's a free thing, right? So it's like changing the wording and stuff. And I didn't even consider that.
It's
but reading
true.
it, I was like, that makes so much sense.
It's true. My mom, she wouldn't watch a lot of my shows because she thought she had to pay for it.
Yeah,
She
that's
was like,
right.
"Oh,
Yeah.
I thought I had to pay for YouTube." And I was like, "What, Mom? What are you talking about? YouTube is free." She's like, "I know it is, but I just thought I had to pay for your stuff." And I was like, "Thanks, Mom." She just found out like this last year too that you don't have to pay for everything.
Yeah. It's weird. But yeah, like Bubba makes it like, but you still say subscribe on YouTube. And like Google even say, like, you tell people to subscribe to your channel. I wonder if that will change over time. Yeah, I wonder if that will change. Yeah, I think people kind of expect it with YouTube, I guess. It's a weird thing. It's just like different people's different perceptions of things. But I found that very interesting. Trevor from Ohio, we've got quite a few questions to go through yet, and still your hyper chats, to say that after Drew and Sheamus' match at Fastlane, it reminded me of my biggest wrestling pet peeve. It truly annoys me that wrestling companies treat matches like no DQ, street fights, extreme rules, no holds barred, and sanction matches as the same match. Why can't they just have one name for this stipulation? The question is, what's your biggest pet peeve in wrestling?
Oh man, I feel like I have quite a few pet peeves, but I'm trying to think. I feel like I had a go-to answer for this, and now I kind of forgot my own pet peeve.
I don't know, but I've always said,
title reigns was my pet peeve. There you go. That's what it was.
Yeah, like I've never understood like WWE. They love to gimmick a match to be like, it's this is a street fight, this is no DQ, this is that. Like, I was listening to a podcast recently that was reviewing an Attitude Era show, and it was like, oh, we're gonna have a triple threat tonight, and it's gonna be no holds barred. And it was like, I mean, there's no DQ anyway. It's a triple threat match. Like, what do you mean? What are you adding other stipulations on top of this?
Yeah, I feel that. See, I get that argument though. I really, really do.
Shia says, hey, Denise and Luke, I've thought about the Impact and AEW partnership so far, and I think it's been a success, but not a big success. Kenny Omega characters really developed in the build-up to Hard to Kill and the big money Matt with Private Party stuff, but I think we need to see Rich Swann on Dynamite to get more eyes on Rebellion with Omega. I think that's coming. I think it's just like, you don't want to pull the trigger on that too early, but that is like, we'll get Rich Swann on AEW Dynamite before Rebellion.
Personally, I think it's just like, it's the viewers. I think some viewers, they just want to watch AEW. They don't necessarily care about the Impact portion of this. There's people that just want to watch Impact and they don't care about the AEW version of this. And I know this because I remember when I was in that Twitch chat for the first show that they like did together, where AEW came in for Impact, and I remember watching the chat, and it was just so much drama between the Impact fans and the AEW fans, and I thought, man, I thought you guys were all going to be on the same page here, and they weren't on the same page, and so that's kind of where I figured out that, hey, there are some people that just want to see something, there are people that want to see both, there are people that just don't care, etc.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, so we watch AEW pay-per-views on Fight here in the UK, and like they have a live chat thing of people who are watching it also on Fight. There are people who buy AEW streams wanting the company to be bad, and it is just then troll, and they do it to troll. Like, that's what they get off on. It's just like they buy it. Not
They
to see
get
the
off
company
on
be
it.
bad. Like they do, but they don't want to just see the whatever the company do. I think would be this, but they literally buy the pay-per-view just to troll AEW fans and rile them up. And AEW fans are very easily riled up. So like, it is just like, when our like mantra is like, don't look at the chat, because it is a minefield of awfulness.
Yeah, it's terrifying because, like, I try to be very, very like honest, and I'm very honest, like on Twitter and on my podcast, where I'll say how it is. Like, if I'm going to be critical of AEW or WWE, I'm going to do it fairly. And so there are times where I'm honestly critical about something, and that doesn't mean that I'm not a fan, right? But then I get these comments where people are like losing their minds over it. And I'm like, you do realize that out of like that one criticism, I put like 20 other tweets out there that were all very positive things. But, and then there's times if you're too overly positive. And it's like, I've been called, AEW show, I've been called WWE show. And I'm like, I can't be both. Gotta pick one or the other, guys. Gotta pick one or the others. But it really is just like that. I think it's what the person wants to see. out of out of you, out of me, out of everybody else who's tweeting. But I do think that people need to learn how to accept criticism, but also not bury people when they do the criticism and when they don't do the criticism for something. It's just like whatever your opinion is, let that be your opinion.
Mark Jones says, I wanted to ask you about kayfabe. Following on from Fastlane, and particularly Kim Orton's tweet to Alexa Bliss, it seems like this question is quite relevant. Is kayfabe really dead? Many of us fans have been saying it for a few years now, but I wonder if it's really true, or has it just simply evolved?
I would say it's kind of dead.
Yeah, like I would say in a way that it is, but then you do like if you like click to a reply, like if you basically look at the replies to tweets from WWE, there are people who do think who act like it's real, and
but that's like sometimes you have to wonder about these people, though, don't you? I do. I'm like, who is this person? What's their life like?
What's their story?
What's their story?
Right?
Yeah, what's your life story, man? Like I need to like I don't know. Like that's how I feel about it. Where it's like, come on. Let's be real here.
LJ Mickey says Roman Reigns has changed his character, his attitude, his gear, even his teeth. I think it's time to change his music. It's the last thing that reminds me of these people. Oh, they're amazing, aren't they? Do you think it's time to change his music? 100% change his music. Like I'm surprised they haven't done it already.
I agree, but seriously, kudos on those teeth, Roman. I would love those teeth. I think about his teeth randomly. I'm like, wonder how much money I gotta have to get those teeth.
Oh, too much money. As someone who's just like, I had a tooth taken out this year, and it's cost me like upwards of £800, like just to get one tooth taken out.
It's expensive.
Like, dude, and then they were like, was like, oh yeah, and you like, we're gonna do an implant. And I was like, cool, how much is that? And I was like, no, it's probably about like £1,500. I was like, £1,500, like to get one tooth replaced? No, man, like I'm just gonna go for it.
And with insurance. And with insurance.
I've already used part of my like health insurance to pay for like some of the £800. I only get £400 a year for dental.
I don't even know what insurance I have. I just know it doesn't cover enough.
I know, and I'm one of the lucky people. I get health insurance, like for like dental and stuff. Mike Phillips, but the rest of our NHS is free, so I can't complain too much. Mike Phillips, with how busy Denise is, what are the chances we could ever see her on Board Game Club on No Rolls Barred? I'd live for Hollywood Salcedo to play Blood on the Clock Tower.
What the hell is Blood on the Clock Tower? Oh, is this one of those brain strategy games where I have to come up with a plan?
A little bit, yeah. So essentially,
you
get given a role, and you essentially like play through a night of things, and people get killed over like through the night, and you have to kill people during the day to try and find out which one of you is the demon. And you basically got to like, if you might be on the villagers team, which means you got to try and prove that you are a villager, or you're a demon, and you got to try and hide the fact that you're a demon and try not to get killed.
That sounds like a lot of work, Luke.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of work. I ain't great at it either, and I love playing it, but I am not good at that game.
Look, I just like to roll the dice and move my little thing. All right, just tell me what I get when I land.
Christiana says, the Fiend is detached from reality more than ever. They're going for the supernatural with Randy's black goo, Alexa's telekinesis, and fire powers. If she has such immense powers, why does the Fiend need to do Sister Abigail to take Randy Orton out? What's the storyline justification for them caring about winning matches?
I know, in that case, she could just be like, doing this, and all of a sudden you just see the guy like flip backwards. See, that's why like it doesn't really work in my opinion, because then you have to like suspend your disbelief for certain things and not for other things. And then if you start going into it, like, like this person did, like, really thinking about this stuff, it gets very complicated. You have to not think really hard about this.
RLT Sandwich, what are your thoughts on Kane going into the Hall of Fame? I watched the video from the bump where Taker told him, and I almost cried myself. I know the Hall of Fame doesn't mean much of anything, to at least to some fans, but seeing Kane's reaction shows that it really meant a lot to him.
I actually loved Khali's reaction.
Oh yeah,
Did you see his?
That. No, I haven't.
I think they should have made a bigger deal about it than they did. Like they mainly just kept it on their like WWE Now India pages. And I'm like, nah, let's make this a little bit more of a big deal. Like I like the great Khali. And he was just like, yeah. That was his reaction. Yeah. But going back to this, I'm happy for Kane, happy for everybody that's getting inducted. I just feel like it's way too many people. And I'm like, they should have let them all have their special moment. Like not only is it so many people, but it's virtual. And I'm like thinking these people could have been saved for next year or the year before. They didn't necessarily have to all go in this year.
Yeah. Like I I mean, the Hall of Fame doesn't really mean a heck of a lot to me. Like, I'm glad that they enjoy it. Like, and I'm glad that it, and it clearly means something to them, and that's lovely. And I love that. Like, seeing Kane's reaction, I'm glad that he is happy. Like, that is really, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. But
how would you feel though if you were going into the Hall of Fame for your life's work and you had to share it with like 10 other people?
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm going into the I don't think I'll be going into the WWE.
No, like, and let's just say you're going into a Hall of, I don't know, Podcasters Hall of Fame.
Yeah, okay. And well, I have thought about this, but so like doing it as a virtual thing. So there's a TV show here in the UK called Taskmaster. It's one of my favorite shows on at the moment, or like MasterChef or something like that. I wouldn't want to go on that at this point. Like, if I was a comedian, I wouldn't want to do Taskmaster at this point because I'd want the crowd there. Like, I'd want an audience there. So like at the moment, there's no audience there, so it kind of feels real like weird. So I would be like, I think I'd be one of those people that'd be like, no, I'm just going to wait until crow's back. Then I'd want to do a show like this. And I think the same.
Maybe
like
Batista.
Fame, I guess. Yeah, like Batista, basically. Yeah, who's like, nah, I'm not doing this shit.
Yeah. No, but I actually like whatever. I know his reasons were for like, scheduling conflicts and whatnot. Yeah, scheduling conflicts.
Yeah, right.
But okay, so we're on the same page here, is what we're saying. Yeah. All right, we're on the same page. Scheduling conflicts. Either way, like, I would want to wait until there's people, and I want to go in when only like 5 people are going in, and I want to be the headliner. Like, I ain't going in like just, one of 20.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there's far too many people. Tyler said, this is my first mailbag, but I just wanted Luke and Denise to wish my girlfriend Maria a happy birthday. She doesn't like wrestling, but she loves the Friday show.
Oh, that's amazing. Happy birthday, Maria.
Happy birthday, Maria. Sophia is back in the, so I need to send this across to you because I will just get it wrong.
Oh, so here we go.
I can get bueno. I can do that bit at the start, but that's about as far as I can get.
Oh, my turn. Oh, I was reading it. Yeah. Sorry. She says, bueno, siempre es divertido escuchar a Luke pronunciar en español, pero hace un muy bien. Oh, que hace un buen trabajo. Pete agarró mi nombre incorrecto, pero aquí está mi pregunta. Okay, she says that she likes you pronouncing the words in Spanish, so you should probably try. That you do a good job, and that Pete mispronounced their name, and that here is their question.
Oh, man, Pete. Oh, I'll pass that along to Patreon, Pete.
Way to go, Pete.
Yeah,
way
to go.
Tell him you got a complaint and in Spanish. You're fired, Pete.
But the question is, Denise, is there anyone you'd like to rep on the mic like Alex does for Pentagon? And Luke, is there anyone in AEW that you'd like to do promos for?
No, I can't cut a promo. I feel like I'd have, like, my charisma will all go out the window.
I think I'd be a terrible manager because I'd want to be a heel manager, but I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. So, like, I'd be real bad at it. I can't say horrible things about people. I'm just not good at it. Like, I just don't think I'm convincing in it.
You're too nice. Stop it. You need to get some Hollywood Salcedo blood into you. You need to be more mean. You're too nice. How would you be afraid of hurting people's feelings? That's terrible.
Even in a kayfabe world, I'd be like, oh man, I don't want to say bad things about them.
No, stop it. How do you know, now that I think about it, how does this match? See, this is what I mean. You're like the nicest person, right?
Thanks.
But yet you like wrestling, which, let's be real, there's some things on there that you shouldn't really be liking if you're like this nice person. Then you listen to all this angry heavy metal music, and you're too nice to listen to the angry heavy metal music. Like, this doesn't make sense.
It's good music. I like the music. It makes me like nod my head. It makes me bang my head. It puts me in a good mood. That's what I got.
All right. Yeah. I'm going to have to teach you how to be a little mean. I don't know how, but we're going to teach you. No. Have you ever ghosted anybody?
No, absolutely not. No.
Okay,
that would, like, but they'd feel so bad that I'd like.
Who cares?
What do you mean? Who cares? I care.
Who cares? No. If someone is like terribly annoying, you just ghost them. See, we're going to start. We're going to teach you how to be mean. You're going to learn the Hollywood Salcedo way.
Brendan said, every so often we hear from people in your position that if this wasn't your day job, you'd probably stop watching WWE except for the pay-per-views and NXT. My question is, what would WWE have to do to get you back into it so you were just watching? Or like, what would it basically do for this to be, say, screw this, I'm out, and quit your job and do something else?
See, I don't know, because I feel like, yeah, even when I stopped watching, I watched the pay-per-views, highlights of Raw and SmackDown, or I would just read what happened, really. Like, I would just read it instead or see it online.
Yeah, but like, I think for me, like, joining this company, joining WrestleTalk is why I watch Raw on a weekly basis. Prior to then, I've never watched Raw on a weekly basis. Like, I've never watched it week to week. I've always just read, like, even like back in the early 2000s, like I was never watching it week to week. I was just reading what happened on WWE.com.
Yeah, I used to watch like every week for years. For years, I would have missed a show, and then I started missing a few, and then I came back.
What would it be for me to quit this job? I don't know. I enjoy this job too much because I get to hang out with my best friends like all the time. Yeah. It's the best. Like,
I'd have to get fired. Or just get offered like millions of dollars doing some other job.
And also, like, he has what would happen? What job would you do? Do you think? What would you go to next? Like, if you did like leave this, what would you do next?
I don't know. I thought about it.
I'd probably get back into an office job, like, because that's what I've done.
You would be happy with that, like?
Well, no, I'm not saying I'd be happy with it, but like that's
what I'd be happy with your alternative option.
Yeah, but I've got to pay rent. Like, I'd pay rent. I've got to pay my mortgage. I've got bills to pay. I've got to, like, I would just have to go and find a job that can, like, so I can, help pay the mortgage with my wife.
See, I can't do that. I got to be happy.
Oh, Denise, I went through so much. Like, I'd done nothing but crappy jobs since I left university, just so I could, like.
So did I. I wasn't happy.
Oh yeah, I was never happy about it, but
I was like, miserable.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the other reason I never quit. I worked too damn hard to get to this point.
Yeah, exactly.
And Robert's last question here in our Patreon mailbag question is about the wrestler. It's your WrestleMania debut in the main event.
Pause. I have my other job. I think I'd be like a publicist.
Ooh.
That'd be kind of fun. A publicist. I'd be like, yes, get my client on your show.
My friend does that. She works in PR.
I'm sure it's fun, right? Like, they get to chat with people all the time.
I don't think she enjoys it too much.
Oh, then maybe not. Oh, next career.
Yeah, because I think her argument is like, yeah, it's fun. Like, if it's a show that you're enjoying and like the people that you're working with are good, but sometimes you work on some shows that are bad and the people on them are just awful people and you don't want to represent them and you've got to deal with them. Anyway, lastly, I got it. Robert.
Magazine editor. That's what I would do. I'd be like, what's her face in 13 going on 30? Right there. That's my job.
Lastly, from Robert, said it's the WrestleMania main event. Vince comes to you and says you can do anything or get anyone for your entrance. What is your grand entrance for WrestleMania? Rob Zombie is playing me out. That is what we're doing. We're going to have Rob Zombie and he is going to play Dead City Radio and that is going to be my entrance. Can
I be like your living dead girl somewhere in the corner? Just like coming out? See, I knew that. I knew that.
That was a good reference. Right. Let's get through the last of these hyper chats that have come through. Thank you all so much for joining us. Urkato on the Bianca Sasha thing has said WWE has lemonade ready to go. Instead, they make instead of making lemon out of lemonade, they tried to make it into lemonade again. Luke Sermon said, "Hey guys, love the Friday podcast. You two make me laugh. Watching WrestleTalk and other channels makes me want to start my own channel, Sirloin Gaming. I was wondering, what are you two most looking forward to on Stand and Deliver? Mine is Cole versus O'Reilly."
Walter Ciampa.
Yeah, that's for me as well. Walter Ciampa. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, for Cole O'Reilly for like storyline purposes, but like, oh man, I'm looking forward to watching Walter wrestle again.
I would pay to get chopped by Walter. Like, if that looks like a thing, access, get paid.
I'm pretty sure I've told you this before, but like when we did the WrestleTalk punishments at Wrestling Media Con in 2018, that was my suggestion, was like for us losing. I was like, because Walter was like, he was one of the wrestlers we had booked for the show. And I was like, oh, we should like go on stage and get like chopped by Walter in front of a live crowd. That'd be really good. But the promoter that we were working with was like, I can't get that cleared with health and safety. Like, because he may make your heart stop. So
are you serious?
Yeah, he's like, he does not mess around and he won't hold back. So like, and he's like, and you guys aren't built for it. I don't think I could get that cleared.
Never mind then. I take my money back. I don't want Walter to be like, done.
Oh god. I've taken chops from Rampage Brown and that sucked. And he was holding back. Wrestling Talk Sign Guy said, did it annoy anyone else that Dasha interrupted Christian to ask what they were talking about? She could have just listened. Also, when Kenny put down Cutler and the camera did a wide shot, Cutler's reaction was great. Like, what did I do? I don't know. I like Dasha doing her interviews and stuff.
You gotta give her a line. Dang. They got to give her something. Let her have a line.
Sean Breslin said WrestleMania is stacked with 2 championship matches, Luke versus Ollie, but we need the greatest match possible on this card. WrestleCat versus Cultaholic former heavyweight champion Pablo Escocato. Meow. Well, I think I would love to get that booked. He's too important. Adam Pearson says, salutations to my 2 favorite people in wrestling. Here's my question. Have you both been, you've both been signed to NXT, but as a rib, you've both been given the opportunity to choose each other's entrance music. What are you going to choose?
Yeah.
And also, Nick again says this cap slander is not appreciated, which I absolutely agree with, Nick.
I'm gonna give you Spice Girls. So tell me what you want. What you really
love that. I would love that, dude. The Spice Girls rock.
Yeah, but it'd be funny. You'd be coming out to this like very funky music, but that wouldn't be your character though. You wouldn't be like this funky, spunky guy.
No,
you'd be looking like Rob Zombie coming out to Spice Girls.
That'll get me over even more. Like, I would absolutely adore that. Like, Spice Girls rule.
Fine, then. You know what? I'm switching it. You're coming out to Dancing Queen by ABBA.
That's also a great shout. Like, dude, I'm British, right? So like I go to a lot of British wrestling shows. The wrestlers that have got like popular pop songs, they're the ones that get over. Like Grado got over because he had Madonna as his entrance theme. Me and my co-host, my podcast co-host, were talking about this literally last night. Like Nixon Newell used to have Bewitched as her entrance theme, and that got her over massively.
Really?
Like, oh yeah, like if you have got like a pop song, the crowd are just gonna be like, this is the best wrestler ever because we get to because we can sing along with this and we're going to have a fun time. So I've always said, like, if I was a wrestler, I would have 2 Unlimited's No Limit as my entrance music because like the crowd would go, no, 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 no. And they would like, that will get me over. Like the entrance music will do all of the hard work. Okay,
well, there you go. My rib's not going to work on you. Go back. I'm going to give you some boring country music.
There it is. Yes. Ash, C'est La Vie. That is the one. Barbie Girl by Aqua. Another great shout. Great track. Yeah, I think I would definitely give you some Slayer. Like I would give you like South of Heaven and stuff, particularly because South of Heaven's got a really long intro and I'd make you wait until it kicked in. Like the intro is like 45 to 50 seconds long. So you just got to stand there for ages and wait for the beat, wait for the drum to go, like for that to kick in.
Oh, that's terrible. You know, when I was doing ring announcing for Ara Lucha, they gave me like a theme song and like I didn't know what the theme song was until I came out. It was this really funky song. And I was like, is this my personality? I hated it. I was walking down. I was like, why do I feel like I need to be jumping in like circles or something?
Yeah. Or WAP. What a great song. Anyway, that's
all we've got. That's going to be your theme song. WAP.
I will do the routine and everything. I will do the routine.
Oh, you're going to get over.
I would get over. I will make some Tories mad. That is all we've got time for on this edition of the WrestleTalk Podcast. Thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate every single person who tunes into this show and who supports us on Patreon, sends in their questions and or hyper chats. Denise, what have you got coming up on Instant Culture?
Okay, so really quickly, if you haven't followed me on Twitter, go follow me on Twitter because I am trying to get to 20K by the time it's my birthday. I have 53 days left, which means I have to get over 50 new followers each day to make it to 20K. So if you haven't followed me yet on Twitter, head on over there at _ Denise Salcedo. And then youtube.com/Denise Salcedo. I just uploaded a brand new interview with Karrion Kross and people are loving it. So check that one out. youtube.com/Denise Salcedo.
If you've ever thought, how did Scarlett Bordeaux and Karrion Kross get together? You can find out. And it is a wonderful story. You got the scoop.
I got the scoop.
I've also just been told that my cup was massively over in the chat. So,
oh, really?
So yeah, for my Wally.
Is it a minion?
No, it's Wally.
Oh, my bad.
Well, it even says it right there, Wally.
Sorry. I thought it was a minion, then I thought it was a Polaroid. Can't.
Anyway, this show's falling off the rails. That is all we've got time for on this show. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend, everyone. Goodbye.